we are into a situation where the prospects of our children are unthinkable and unresolved.
It is time to panic. We need to do something right now. We need to do it really, really fast and a major change in direction. We have only about 2 decades left to fix this problem. And 2 decades for what we need to do is really an extraordinarily short time. Now, Dale explained that if you look at the picture from a global point of view, the primary problem is CO2. And that's correct for the world as a whole. But for North America, that's not the problem. In North America, the problem is methane. Currently, Ontario is getting most of its gas from fracking operations in the US. This picture is not to scale. They're drawing the gas out of the Marcellus shale, which is only 100 feet thick, roughly. But it's 600 feet down in the ground. So it's just a really, really thin layer of rock in the ground. And the methane has been held in that shale rock for 360 million years because shale has the property of sealing the flow, the porosity for methane gas. We're talking orders of magnitude here. We're talking thousands of megatons of greenhouse gases that are in the ground. I'm not saying they're out in the atmosphere yet, but they're in the ground. There's no way to stop it. This Marcellus shale is a large deposit that goes from Ontario down to the southern US states. It's a huge area. And once the gas has escaped from the shale layer into the rocks around the shale, there's absolutely nothing we can do to stop it. So the only possible solution to this problem is to stop using natural gas.
This changes everything, and it's every one of us. It will not happen from above, because that's where the centers of power that are derived from the fossil fuel industry reside. They have full control of that, and they have, as machines, I mean, essentially a corporation is a machine designed to create profit for its shareholders. As a machine, it is designed to ignore those externalities, like the future of the planet and its population. So don't blame the corporations, blame those who are running it. So I'm going to, since this is the bad news part of the session, I'm going to talk about what I think is worse news than that was just presented. You heard that methane is an important greenhouse gas, particularly over the short term. It does dissipate in the atmosphere eventually, but when it's present in the atmosphere, it has huge effects. The projections of the climate scientists on if we do nothing about the methane rise is that we will meet the 1.5 degrees C within a decade. That 1.5 C is not some kind of line in the sand the scientists have drawn in the sense that you shouldn't go past that line. This is a high-risk passage, and it's not like it gets much, it's going to be a worse situation. No, it's what's called irreversible. Irreversible means that when you've gone past a certain point, the heat of the Earth itself will generate much more greenhouse gas into the air, particularly things like methane in the tundra, where those emissions will be producing without any further human activity. We will have ruined the prospects forever of saving this planet. The consequences are unthinkable. Most of the species on Earth will be dead. Human civilization won't exist anymore. These are very dire times. These are a time when we need to take deep thought about what our commitments are in our lives and to our children. Methane is a huge factor in this, and it will drive that tipping point the fastest. So our accounting has been wrong. You do not look at the 100-year equivalency of methane, you look at the 10 and 20-year timelines. Under that metric, and actually measuring the greenhouse gases that are coming off these fields, as opposed to what the industry has been saying, results in a 6-fold increase in the amount of methane contribution to global warming. We had thought, and many environmentalists thought this as well, that it was the transition fuel. It had lower CO2 emissions to create the same amount of energy than coal. As it turns out, now that North America is reliant entirely for its new gas supplies from fracking, and the production of which is causing all of this methane release, it's much worse than coal. We are actually increasing our greenhouse gas emissions as a result of that transition. No one wants to say it yet, that I have found, but we have to phase out natural gas, ASAP. None of the accords between Ottawa and Washington about asking the industry to see if they could cut their fugitive gas by 45% will come close to what is required in order to avoid the methane bomb. The only way that can happen is that we have to shut down the gas production fields. Fracking has to stop in North America, and we have to get off what I call frack cocaine of the industry. And it's a single problem. How do we get off it? As it turns out, that's not a big deal. There's a house over there that's going off it right now. My house has been off it for a long time. I've never had a client that I put natural gas in for decades. And the results are that they have lower operating costs than if they had stayed with the natural gas device. This is good news economically for all of us. It does require capital. And when I hear it's imperiling the gross national product and the economy to address these problems, that is entirely the voices of those soulless, brainless corporate structures speaking. There is no content to those remarks. The printing of money is happening willy-nilly. They're turning on the money-making machines and has very little to do with the productivity of the nation. If the monies that were going into those, I'll call them killing fields, had gone into the kind of work that all of us know about, which is re-siding of buildings and putting in windows and putting in new heating plants and all of the things that our communities can be doing ourselves, and those resources were allocated, those low-interest loans were made available to our communities, and that we all took on the ambition of transforming our communities into zero-emission communities. This will be a very productive economy. We'll be very busy. We'll all have jobs, and there'll be meaningful jobs that we feel good about because we're saving our children. This is actually really good news. And even better, once we get off the fossil fuel habit and save the planet, the marginal cost of producing renewable energy is zero. Once you put those on the roof or put your windmill up, they'll last for 20 or 30 years. The long-term cost of that resource is near zero. We'll have to figure a way of charging it so that it's not wasted and put it to good use in our communities to help with our education systems and our health services systems. This is all good news for communities. We as neighbors with each other, in our towns, in our houses, and collectively can figure this out. And I think that's what today hopefully is going to discover. Thank you.